Don't drive alone at night. Nathan Miles was no stranger to night shifts. As a delivery driver, the quiet highways and desolate roads of his small Midwestern town had become his second home. The dark, stretching asphalt often offered a sense of solitude that he relished. But there was something about this particular night that gnawed at him a strange unease he couldn't shake. He adjusted his rearview mirror, squinting at the thick fog creeping over the road. His phone chimed, breaking the silence. It was his manager reminding him of the urgent delivery to a remote address outside of town. Nathan sighed, threw the phone on the passenger seat, and pressed on the accelerator. The first half hour of the drive was uneventful. The night was eerily quiet, save for the occasional rustling of leaves or the distant howl of a coyote. But as the road narrowed and the streetlights became fewer, Nathan began noticing odd things. A shadow darting across the road, a flicker of movement in the tree line, things that seemed to vanish the moment he focused on them. Probably just my imagination, he muttered to himself, trying to shake the growing tension. As he rounded a bend, his headlights illuminated a figure standing on the side of the road. A woman, drenched and shivering, waved frantically. Her clothes clung to her skin, and her face looked pale, almost ghostly. Against his better judgment, Nathan pulled over. "Are you okay?" he asked, rolling down the window slightly. The woman nodded. "My car broke down. Can you give me a ride to the next town?" Nathan hesitated. Something about her didn't feel right, but he couldn't leave her stranded in the middle of nowhere. He unlocked the passenger door, and she climbed in without another word. The air in the car grew heavy as they drove. Nathan tried to make small talk, but the woman gave short, cryptic answers. Her gaze never left the windshield, and her hands clutched her knees as if she were bracing herself for something. "Where exactly are you headed?" he finally asked. "To somewhere safe," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. Nathan's grip on the steering wheel tightened. His eyes darted to the rearview mirror. For a split second, he thought he saw another figure sitting in the back seat. He slammed on the brakes, his heart racing. "What's wrong?" the woman asked, her tone suddenly sharp. Nathan turned to face her, but she was gone. The passenger seat was empty, and the door was firmly shut. His mind reeled as he scrambled out of the car, scanning the dark road. Nothing. A cold wind swept through the night, carrying with it a faint whisper. "You shouldn't be out here alone." Nathan jumped back into his car and sped off, his heart pounding. He wanted to call someone, anyone, but his phone had no signal. Every mile felt like an eternity, and the road seemed to stretch endlessly. Then he saw a car identical to his own, flipped on its side in a ditch. Smoke rose from the wreckage, and the mangled body of a man was slumped over the steering wheel. Nathan's stomach turned as he realized the man looked exactly like him. Panic set in. He swerved back onto the road, driving faster and faster, desperate to reach civilization. But the road never ended. It looped, bringing him back to the same wreckage again and again. Each time, the scene grew more grotesque, the body more decayed. Finally, Nathan screamed, slamming on the brakes. The car skidded to a stop, and he buried his head in his hands, trembling. When he looked up, the woman was standing in front of the car, her face now twisted into a sinister grin. "You should have listened," she said, her voice echoing unnaturally. "Never drive alone at night." Before he could react, the world around him dissolved into darkness. When Nathan woke up, he was back in his car, parked in his driveway. The sun was rising, casting a warm glow over his neighborhood. For a moment, he thought it had all been a nightmare, but when he looked in the rearview mirror, the woman's face stared back at him, her smile frozen and haunting. From that day on, Nathan never drove at night again, and whenever he passed someone stranded on the side of the road, he kept his eyes forward and his foot on the gas. Haunted by the memory of the night he ignored the warning, "Don't drive alone at night."